The bitter cold seeped up from the frozen earth like a vengeful spirit. Each night was a battle against an invisible enemy. They learned to breathe in shallow, careful draughts through their noses, exhaling slowly to preserve what little warmth their bodies could generate. The very air inside their huts could feel like shards of glass in their lungs. They slept in shifts, always someone tending the struggling fire. The firekeeper's duty was sacred, for embers meant the difference between life and death. Children were taught from infancy not to waste body heat with sudden movements. The entire household became a single breathing organism, a collective determination to see the sunrise. Their clothing was not merely worn, it was inhabited. Layer upon layer of wool and linen became a second skin. They moved stiffly, like bears shuffling through winter dreams. The rich might have furs, but peasants had ingenuity. They stuffed dried grasses between their tunics as extra insulation. They rubbed animal fat on exposed skin against the biting wind. Every garment told a story of survival through its stains and patches. The same cloak might serve 3 generations, each repair a testament to someone's determination to continue. Homes were not just shelters but fragile ecosystems. The central hearth was the sun around which all life orbited. Families arranged themselves like planets in careful alignment, the youngest and oldest closest to the warmth, the strongest forming a protective outer ring. They learned which walls gathered the morning sun. They knew exactly when sunlight would touch the floor. These small victories were celebrated in silent gratitude. The architecture of survival was written in daily rituals. Food became their internal furnace. They consumed heavy stews of grains and root vegetables. Every meal was fuel calculated against the night's cold. They discovered which foods generated the most lasting warmth. Fatty meats, dense breads, thick porridges. Eating was not pleasure but necessity. The evening meal was a serious preparation for the long dark. They ate in silence, conserving energy for the battle ahead. Each bite was another hour toward dawn. They developed a profound understanding of materials. How straw packed just so could block drafts. How mud mixed with certain grasses hardened best. How to thatch roofs to shed snow but retain heat. This knowledge was passed down like sacred texts. A grandfather's hands showing a grandson how to chink walls. A mother teaching which mosses insulated best. These were the real lessons of their world, more valuable than any king's decree. The animals were not just livestock but fellow survivors. The warmth of a cow could keep a baby alive. The breath of goats fogged the air in gentle clouds. They learned which creatures generated the most heat, how to position pens for maximum benefit. The animals became part of the family's warmth economy. Their body heat was measured as carefully as firewood. This coexistence was practical, not sentimental. Another thread in the web of survival. The darkness was not empty, but filled with purpose. The firekeeper's watch was a lonely vigil, stoking, poking, coaxing the flames through the long hours. The sounds of the night took on specific meanings. The wind's pitch indicated coming weather. The crackle of embers told of the fire's health. Even the stars through smoke holes served as clocks, marking the slow march toward morning. Each hour survived was a small victory. They developed a seasonal wisdom deeper than any calendar, knowing when the first frost would come, when the river would freeze, when the worst storms traditionally arrived. This knowledge was their true wealth, more precious than silver or land. It was woven into songs and stories, embedded in children's rhymes, the oral library of survival. Their bodies adapted to the harsh conditions, metabolism slowing to conserve energy, circulation prioritizing core organs. They could sense temperature changes imperceptible to modern humans. Their very physiology became part of their strategy. They moved with economic grace, no motion wasted, no energy expended without purpose, every action calculated for thermal efficiency. The community became their greatest insulation. Neighbors checked on each other during storms, shared resources when firewood ran low, took in families when roofs collapsed. This network of mutual aid was their social warmth. As important as any physical protection, they understood that isolation meant death, community meant life. This truth was carved into their bones. Spring was not just a season but a resurrection. The first thaw brought visible relief. Shoulders straightened, laughter returned. The survived winter became part of their identity. Each spring they had cheated death again. This cycle shaped their worldview, made them resilient, taught them the price of life. We moderns have lost this intimacy with survival. Our warmth comes from switches and dials, our food from stores, our community from digital networks. But in medieval peasants, we see the rot roof. That life is earned through struggle, that comfort is measured against hardship, that every breath in winter is a defiance of death. Their legacy is not in monuments or books, but in the stubborn persistence of life itself, in the knowledge that humans can endure almost anything, when they work together, when they refuse to surrender, when they understand that survival is both science and art. The medieval peasants didn't just survive winter, they mastered it, one frozen night at a time. The winter's grasp was not merely endured but meticulously calculated. Every aspect of their existence became part of a complex thermal economy. They knew precisely how much body heat a sleeping child generated, understood how the positioning of a storage jar could block a draft, recognized which corners of the hut would frost first. This was a science born of absolute necessity. Their sleep was a carefully managed resource, not a restorative retreat, but a state of reduced consumption. They learned to sleep deeply yet lightly, able to wake at the first sign of embers fading, yet resting enough to face the dawn's labors. Dreams were often of warmth, a psychological response to physical deprivation. Communication evolved for efficiency. Words were measured like precious fuel. Gestures conveyed what would take sentences to explain. A glance could coordinate the nightly fire watch rotation. A touch could signal a draft needing attention. Silence itself became a language. The quiet understanding of shared struggle. They developed an almost supernatural weather sense. Could smell snow hours before it fell. Feel the particular cold that meant clear skies versus storm. Read the wind's language and the thatcher's whisper. This environmental literacy was their early warning system, allowing them to prepare, to batten down, to make the critical decisions that meant survival. The very architecture of their bodies changed with seasons. Winter weight was consciously maintained. Not vanity but vital insulation. Muscles adapted to the constant shivering. Hands grew clever at tasks with numb fingers. They became a different people in winter, hardened, focused, profoundly connected to elemental needs. Time itself was measured differently, not by clocks but by temperature fluctuations. The deep cold of midnight, the slight warming before dawn, the precious hour when sunlight finally touched the floor, these were the markers that structured their existence. Each small warming a cause for hope. Their relationship with fire approached the sacred. They understood its personality, how different woods burned at varying rates, how embers could be read like tea leaves, how to bank a fire for maximum longevity. This knowledge was more valuable than gold, the difference between life and death. Children learned survival mathematics from infancy. How many people and how small a space equaled sustainable warmth. How much food equaled enough energy for the night. How much firewood equaled morning survival. These calculations became instinctual, a generational inheritance of practical wisdom. The community developed what we might now call swarm intelligence. Information about weather patterns, techniques for insulation, successful adaptations, all flowed through the village like neural pathways. The collective knowledge far exceeded any individual's understanding, making the community itself the ultimate survival mechanism. Spring's arrival was not a sudden transformation but a gradual thawing, both of the land and of the people themselves. The tension in shoulders would ease over weeks. Laughter would return cautiously. The memory of winters might kept them humble, even in sunshine. Each spring was a rebirth earned through struggle, making the green world seem all the more precious. In our climate-controlled modernity, we've lost this intimate dance with necessity. The medieval peasant understood something fundamental. That comfort is not a right but an achievement. That community is not a luxury but a necessity. That survival itself is the most profound form of wisdom. Their legacy is not in what they built but in what they endured, and in the profound humanity they forged in that enduring. The rhythm of survival beat in every heartbeat. The symphony of small victories against the encroaching cold. They learned to read the frost patterns on the walls, each crystalline structure telling a story of the night's severity. The way ice formed on water buckets indicated temperature gradients. A natural thermometer they consulted each morning. Their bodies became barometers of atmospheric pressure. Old wounds aching before storms, joints stiffening with dropping temperatures. This physical wisdom was passed through generations, an embodied knowledge more accurate than any instrument. The architecture of their dwellings evolved through trial and error. Walls thickened after particularly brutal winters. Roof pitches adjusted to shed snow more efficiently. Each modification represented a lesson paid for in discomfort, sometimes in lives. Their homes became living textbooks of survival. Food preservation became an art form. Smoking, salting, drying, each method a defense against starvation. They developed an intricate understanding of seasonal nutrition, knowing which winter greens could prevent scurvy, how to store apples to last through frozen months. The night watch was a sacred responsibility, the fire tender becoming the guardian of dreams, the protector of breath in the frozen ark. This solitary vigil shaped their character, teaching patience, observation, the profound value of quiet vigilance. Children learned resourcefulness before they learned letters. A dropped mitten could mean frostbite. Wasted heat could mean suffering. They developed a conservation mindset that would shape their entire worldview, seeing resources as finite and precious. The community developed systems of mutual protection, watch rotations for the elderly, food sharing for the ill, firewood collection for those unable. This network of care was their social safety net, woven from compassion and practical necessity. Their calendar was written in weather patterns and animal behavior, the departure of birds signaling coming cold, the thickness of squirrel nests indicating winter severity. This ecological literacy connected them to their environment in ways we can scarcely comprehend. The return of light each spring was a religious experience, the first green shoot a miracle, the thawing earth a resurrection. This annual renewal forged their resilience, teaching them that no winter lasts forever, no night continues without dawn. In our disconnected modernity, we've lost this intimate conversation with necessity. The medieval peasant understood that true security comes not from abundance, but from adaptability, not from independence, but from interdependence, not from dominating nature, but from understanding its rhythms. Their legacy lives on in our capacity to endure, to find warmth in community, to see the coming spring in the deepest winter. They teach us that the most profound survival skill is neither strength nor intelligence, but the stubborn refusal to surrender to the cold, to the dark, to despair itself. They measured time in layers of clothing added and removed, each garment representing a specific temperature threshold. A heavy wool cloak came out when frost first silvered the grass, the extra leggings when the stream's edge began to harden. This sartorial calendar was as precise as any almanac. Their dreams adapted to the season's demands, filled with visions of summer sun during the deepest cold, as if their sleeping minds provided what waking life could not. These dreams became a psychological survival mechanism, a mental oasis in the frozen months. The architecture of their relationships mirrored their dwellings, net for warmth, with carefully maintained boundaries. They understood the balance between proximity and privacy, between communal sharing and personal space. This social engineering was as crucial as any physical shelter. They developed a specialized vocabulary for cold, words for the particular chill that comes before snow, for the burning cold of dry winter nights, for the damp cold that seeps into burns. This linguistic precision helped them communicate danger and coordinate responses with efficiency. Their bodies learned to hoard warmth like treasure, blood flowing in conserved patterns, metabolism slowing to a winter rhythm. They could sense another's body temperature with a touch, knowing when a child needed moved closer to the fire, when an elder required extra blankets. The darkness became a canvas for their ingenuity, learning to navigate by touch when lamps burned out, developing memory maps of their homes in absolute blackness, using sound and smell as supplemental guides. When sight was useless, they treated warmth as a tangible currency. A shared blanket represented a significant loan. A place by the fire denoted social standing. The gift of embers to a neighbor was a profound act of charity. This economy of heat shaped their entire value system. Their laughter changed in winter, quicker to come but softer in volume, as if conserving the energy exuberance required. Joy became a careful expenditure. Moments of lightness balanced against the constant struggle. The silence of snow taught them new ways of listening, hearing the creak of roof beams under weight, the subtle shift in wind that meant changing weather, the different qualities of quiet that meant safety or danger. Spring's arrival was met with cautious celebration. The first warm day treated with suspicion, the second with hope, the third with genuine relief. They knew winter could return with vengeance. But nature's kindness was always provisional. In our temperature, minus controlled existence, we've lost this intimate negotiation with the elements. The medieval peasant understood that comfort is a temporary state, that security is collective, that resilience is born from adaptation, rather than domination. Their legacy whispers in our own capacity to endure, in the knowledge that hardship can forge strength, that community can provide warmth beyond what fire offers, that the human spirit, like the medieval peasant in winter, can find ways to persist against all odds and all elements. They understood the mathematics of thermal retention. How many bodies in a space of specific dimensions could raise the temperature by measurable degrees? This geometry of survival was calculated, not with numbers but with lived experience, each winter adding another data point to their collective understanding. Their sleep patterns followed lunar cycles and temperature drops, waking instinctively when the fire needed attention, dreaming in segments between stoking intervals. This fragmented rest became natural, their bodies adapting to the rhythm of vigilance that the season demanded. The very texture of their lives changed with the cold. Conversations grew more deliberate, movements more economical. Even emotions seemed to conserve energy. Laughter was shared warmth, tears were precious moisture, and silence was the blanket they wrapped around themselves. They developed a taxonomy of winter sounds, the dangerous creak of overburdened roof beams, the comforting crackle of properly banked timbers, the specific whistle of wind that promised more snow, the subtle drips that signaled the coming thaw. This acoustic awareness formed their nightly soundtrack. Food became thermal engineering. They knew which stews retained heat longest in clay pots, how to position bread so it caught half warmth, but didn't dry, which root vegetables stored their own warmth when cooked. Every meal was designed for maxim and thermal benefit, each recipe a battle plan against the cold. Their clothing systems represented generations of innovations, layers that could be added or removed in precise sequences, weaves that trapped air yet allowed moisture to escape, stitching patterns that reinforced areas most exposed to wind. His sartorial technology was their mobile architecture. The darkness became their classroom, teaching patience through long nights, resourcefulness when supplies ran low, improvisation when expected solutions failed. Winter was the harsh instructor that forged their character in ice and shadow. They learned to read the sky as both clock and calendar, the position of constellations indicating the night's progression, the quality of starlight predicting morning temperatures, the color of dawn forecasting the day's severity. His celestial literacy connected them to cycles larger than their individual struggles. Spring's arrival was felt in their bodies before seen in nature, a loosening of shoulders held tense for months, a deepening of breaths no longer rationed against the cold, a return of color to cheeks long pale from indoor confinement. Their physical thawing mirrored the land's. In our climate minus controlled modernity, we've lost this embodied wisdom. The medieval peasant understood that true resilience comes not from avoiding discomfort, but from learning its language, not from controlling the environment, but from dancing with its rhythms. Their legacy lives in our capacity to adapt, to find warmth in connection, to see resourcefulness as the highest form of wealth. They teach us that the most profound survival strategy is neither resistance nor surrender, but the graceful, stubborn persistence of life finding its way through the longest night toward the certain, if distant dawn. Their wisdom was etched in the very grain of the wood they gathered, knowing which trees burned hottest and longest, which emitted sparks too dangerous for thatched roofs, which left coals that could smolder through the night. This arboreal knowledge was a sacred genealogy of heat, each log chosen with the foresight of tomorrow's dawn. Their hands became calibrated instruments. A palm against a wall could gauge the dropping temperature. Fingers brushed over a child's cheek assessed vital warmth. They touched to the earth, predicted the frost's depth. This tactile intelligence operated beneath conscious thought, and embodied with a station in constant operation. The darkness was not empty, but densely layered. The deep black of moonless nights demanded different strategies than starlit ones. They learned to navigate by the pressure of air on skin, the subtle echoes of sound in frozen landscapes, the way breath crystallized at specific altitudes within their dwellings. Each form of darkness had its own topography. Time compressed and expanded in winter's grip. The hour before dawn stretched into what felt like days, while the precious sunlight hours vanished in a blink. They developed a seasonal temporality, where urgency and patience found strange balance, and waiting became an active state of being. Their voices adapted to the cold's acoustics, learning to project warmth through tone, using specific cadences to comfort frightened children, developing a lexicon of reassurance that needed no words. The very timbre of their speech became another layer of insulation. They understood the economy of motion, how to rise from sleeping with minimal heat loss, the most efficient path through morning chores, the precise gestures needed to maintain good temperature. This kinetic intelligence made every movement count, turning daily survival into a form of dance. The community's memory became the living library, recalling which winters were historically severe, remembering which techniques worked in specific conditions, preserving stories of survival that served as roadmaps. This oral archive was more valuable than any written record, adapted and refined with each passing generation. The relationship with the elements was one of deep observation, noting how frost patterns predicted coming weather, reading the snow's texture like a meteorological report, interpreting the language of animal behavior. This environmental literacy kept them one step ahead of disaster. In our disconnected modernity, we've lost this granular awareness. The medieval peasant understood that true security comes from reading the world in all its subtle signs, moving with rather than against natural rhythms, and finding in limitation not constraint but creative possibility. Their legacy endures in the human capacity to notice, to see the world in a grain of snow, to hear the future in the wind's particular pitch, to feel the turning of seasons in our very bones. They remind us that the most advanced technology is still the cultivated art of attention, the patient accumulation of small wisdoms, and the stubborn grace that finds a way to kindle light in the deepest dark. They measured the winter's progress not by calendars, but by subtle shifts in their daily reality. The moment breath began to crystallize in the air inside their homes marked the true start of deep winter. The point when water left in clay pots would freeze despite being near the hearth signaled the season's peak. These were the true milestones that structured their year. Their bodies developed what we might now call thermal intelligence, an intuitive understanding of heat transfer that guided every action. They knew precisely how long to warm stones for bed without risking fire, the exact moment to add wood to maintain optimal overnight embers, the specific way to position their bodies to maximize shared warmth without discomfort. The darkness became a medium for different kinds of knowledge, the tactile literacy of finding tools by touch alone, the auditory awareness that could distinguish between wind patterns, the olfactory sensitivity that detected dampness before it became dangerous. Winter sharpened senses that summer allowed to grow dull. They developed a complex economy of energy conservation, calculating whether the warmth gained from cooking outweighed the effort expended, balancing the thermal cost of fetching water against the risk of dehydration, measuring the value of every motion against the precious calories it would consume. This constant calculation became second nature. Their social structures adapted to the seasonal pressure. Hierarchy softened when survival demanded cooperation. Old grievances were set aside when sharing warmth became necessary. The community reorganizing itself around the fundamental need to persevere. Winter revealed their essential interdependence. The very concept of time transformed under winter's influence. Hours measured by the slow consumption of a candle, days marked by the gradual sinking of food stores, weeks counted in the thinning of firewood piles. This material temporality kept them grounded in present necessities. They cultivated what modern psychology might call radical acceptance, not passive resignation but clear-minded acknowledgement of their circumstances. This allowed them to focus energy on what could be changed, to waste no effort fighting what couldn't be altered, to find agency within constraint rather than railing against limitation. Their relationship with the natural world was one of respectful observation, learning from animals that grew thicker coats, studying how snow insulated the earth beneath, noticing which plants retained warmth around their roots. This ecological empathy provided clues for their own survival strategies. In our climate-controlled modernity, We've lost this intimate conversation with necessity. The medieval peasant understood that true resilience comes from working with constraints rather than resisting them, finding possibility within limitation, and recognizing that the most valuable resources are often not material but relational, the shared warmth of community, the accumulated wisdom of experience, the stubborn hope that knows spring always follows winter, no matter how long the night seems. Their legacy endures in the human capacity to find light in darkness, warmth in connection, and meaning in the very struggle to continue. They remind us that the most profound victories are oft unquiet ones. A simple, stubborn fact of morning arrived, another night survived, another day begun. Their existence became a delicate negotiation with thermodynamics. They learned that heat rose in specific patterns through their dwellings, creating microclimates where a child could sleep warm, while frost formed just inches above on the ceiling. This vertical geography of temperature dictated sleeping arrangements, storage solutions, even where to place the sick or elderly. Their perception of sound evolved to detect thermal changes. The particular silence of extreme cold differed from ordinary quiet. A deeper hush, as moisture froze in the air itself. They could hear the quality of frost forming, distinguish between the crackle of healthy embers and the dangerous hiss of dying coals. Time became measured in units of endurance, not hours or minutes, but in how long fingers could remain functional outdoors, how many breaths until a wool scarf froze stiff, how quickly exposed skin would pale with frost swarming. This bodily chronometry kept them constantly aware of their limits. They developed what we might call thermal empathy, the ability to sense an other's discomfort before they voiced it, to recognize the subtle shivering that demanded intervention, to feel the collective body heat of their household as a single entity. This sensitivity formed an invisible network of care that wrapped around their community like an extra layer of insulation. The darkness became a canvas for memory and imagination. With physical movement limited by cold and night, they turned inward, sharing stories that transported them to summer fields, singing songs that carried the warmth of better seasons, crafting mental landscapes where cold couldn't reach. This psychological migration sustained them as much as any physical warmth. The relationship with fire approached the mystical. They understood its personality, how different woods had different spirits, how flame could be coaxed but never commanded, how embers held memories of the day's warmth and promises for the morning. This respectful partnership with elemental forces shaped their worldview fundamentally. In our modern climate minus controlled existence, we've lost this intimate dialogue with our environment. The medieval peasant understood that true comfort comes not from dominating nature, but from finding harmony with its rhythms, that security is found not in isolation, but in interdependence, that the most valuable knowledge is often written, not in books but in the body's memory of survival. Their legacy whispers to us through the centuries, the reminder that human resilience is woven from countless small adaptations, that community is the ultimate survival strategy, and that sometimes the most profound wisdom is knowing how to keep a flame alive through the long, cold, beautiful night. Their wisdom was written in the language of touch and texture. They could gauge the coming weather by running a hand along the grain of their wooden doors, the way moisture swelled the fibers in the hours before snow, the particular dryness that signaled a clear, bitter night ahead. This tactile forecasting was as reliable as any modern meteorology. Their acoustic environment became a complex symphony of survival. They learned to distinguish between the harmless settling of roof beams and the ominous creak that preceded a collapse under snow's weight. The wind's melody through different chinks in the walls told them which gaps needed urgent stuffing with moss or rags. Even the silence of deep cold had its own distinct pitch and quality. Time became layered in their consciousness, the immediate present of maintaining body heat, the medium minus term planning of firewood rotation, the long minus view knowledge that spring would eventually come. Its temporal flexibility allowed them to endure present hardships without losing sight of future relief. Their communal bonds were reinforced through thermal interdependence, the sharing of body heat and sleeping arrangements created biological connections that transcended social hierarchies. A nobleman and peasant might share the same shivering vulnerability when winter's bite penetrated stone walls equally. Cold became the great equalizer that temporarily dissolved class distinctions. They developed what we might now call environmental empathy, the ability to read animal behavior as weather signs, to understand how trees position themselves against prevailing winds, to recognize how snow accumulation patterns revealed microclimates. This ecological intelligence was their true inheritance, passed down through generations of careful observation. The darkness became a teacher of alternative perception. With vision limited by night and indoor smoke, they heightened their other senses, detecting drafts by the subtle movement of air on skin, assessing fire temperature by its scent, navigating spaces through muscle memory and touch. This multisensory awareness made them intimately present in their world. Their relationship with resources was one of deep respect. Each log represented hours of labor in its cutting and curing. Each blanket embodied the care of shearing, spinning, and weaving. Each stored vegetable contained the memory of summer's abundance. This material consciousness fostered a culture of conservation that modern consumer society has largely forgotten. In our technologically mediated existence, we've lost this direct conversation with elemental reality. The medieval peasant understood that true resilience emerges from accepting nature's rhythms rather than resisting them, from finding abundance within apparent scarcity, and from recognizing that the most valuable wealth is oft unmeasured in shared warmth and communal trust. Their legacy endures in the human capacity to adapt and persevere. They remind us that beneath our modern comforts lies the same fundamental need for connection to each other, to our environment, and to the simple, profound truth that we are creatures of this earth, capable of finding light in darkness and warmth in the coldest night. Through the sheer stubborn miracle of continued existence, they learned to read the cold like a language written in frost. Each fern minus like pattern on the window shutters spoke of humidity and wind direction. Each icicle's length and clarity recorded the duration of a freeze. This literacy of ice allowed them to predict not just the weather, but the very behavior of their world in the days to come. Their bodies became living almanacs of seasonal change, joints that ached specifically before snowfall, skin that tightened hours before the temperature dropped, lungs that adapted their rhythm to preserve moisture in dry cold. His physiological wisdom was their most personal weather vane, constantly measuring and responding to the environment. The architecture of their relationships mirrored their dwellings, interwoven like thatch for mutual protection, leaving small openings for necessary ventilation, strong enough to withstand seasonal storms yet flexible enough to endure. They understood that human connections, like shelter, required both structure and permeability to remain resilient. They developed a culinary science of thermal preservation, knowing which stews retained heat longest in clay pots, how to layer grains to create insulating pockets in bread dough, which herbs helped circulation when brewed into teas. Every meal was both nourishment and thermal strategy, each recipe a battle plan against the cold's encroachment. The darkness became their theatre of memory and innovation. In the long nights they perfected crafts that required delicate handwork, composed songs that carried the warmth of human connection, devised new solutions to problems daylight hours never revealed. Winter's constraints became the mother of their most creative inventions. Their understanding of time embraced both circular and linear dimensions. The cyclical return of seasons gave them patience, while the linear progression of each winter day demanded action. This dual temporal awareness allowed them to balance acceptance of what couldn't be changed with determination to improve what could. In our modern temperature minus regulated existence, we've lost this intimate dialogue with our environment. The medieval peasant understood that true comfort comes not from eliminating seasonal challenges, but from developing the wisdom to meet them with grace. That security is found not in controlling nature, but in learning its rhythms well enough to dance with them. Their legacy endures in the human capacity to find meaning in limitation, to discover abundance in apparent scarcity, and to recognize that the warmest fires are often those that have weathered the longest nights. They remind us that resilience is not about avoiding winter's bite, but about learning to feel its sharp beauty, while knowing spring's promise sleeps within the frozen ground. They learned to see the world through a prism of thermal gradients, understanding how sunlight pulled in certain corners of the room at precise hours, how stone walls absorbed a daytime warmth to release it slowly through the night, how the very geometry of their dwellings could be tuned to capture and conserve heat. This architectural wisdom was their silent partner in survival. Their hands developed a sensitivity beyond ordinary touch. Fingers could gauge the moisture content of firewood by its weight and texture. Thumbs could assess a child's fever through layers of woolen blankets. Knuckles could test the structural integrity of ice on water barrels. This tactile intelligence was their first line of defense against the elements. The rhythm of their days followed thermal currents rather than clocks, rising when the fire demanded feeding, sleeping when cold made activity pointless, working in the precious hours when sunlight and body heat could be combined for maximum effect. This thermal tempos synchronized their lives with nature's pulse. They cultivated a profound understanding of material properties, which would produce the longest lasting coals, how different clays held heat in cooking vessels, which animal furs provided the best insulation against damp cold. This material science was passed down through generations like a sacred trust. Their social structures adapted to thermal realities. Communal sleeping arrangements followed careful calculations of body mass and metabolism. Food sharing prioritized those who generated least natural warmth. Work assignments considered both physical strength and cold tolerance. This thermal social contract ensured the community's survival. The darkness became their laboratory for sensory refinement, learning to distinguish between the scent of healthy dampness and dangerous mold, developing auditory maps of their environment through echo and resonance, refining their sense of touch until they could read textures like written words. Winter's limitations became the whetstone that sharpened their perceptions. Their relationship with time embraced multiple dimensions: the immediate urgency of maintaining body temperature, the seasonal patience required for stored food to last, the generational perspective that viewed each winter as part of a continuous struggle. This multi-layered temporality gave their lives depth and meaning. In our climate-controlled modernity, we've lost this intimate conversation with necessity. The medieval peasant understood that true resilience emerges from accepting nature's constraints while working creatively within them, that security comes not from eliminating challenges, but from developing the capacity to meet them with wisdom and grace. Their legacy endures in the human ability to find possibility in limitation, to discover abundance in apparent scarcity, and to recognize that the warmest fires often burn brightest after they've weathered the longest nights. They remind us that we are creatures of this earth, capable of extraordinary adaptation. When we remember to listen to the world's ancient rhythms, and to the wisdom written in our very bones, they measured the winter's severity not by temperature, but by the behavior of common materials. The point when ale would freeze in its tankard before one could finish drinking marked true bitter cold. The moment when bread needed to be split with an axe rather than a knife signaled the deep frost's arrival. These material transformations were their most trusted thermometers. Their bodies developed what we might call thermal proprioception, an innate sense of how to position themselves to minimize heat loss, how to breathe in rhythms that conserved warmth without conscious thought, how to move with an economy that turned every gesture into thermal management. This embodied wisdom was their constant companion. The architecture of their daily lives followed principles of thermal optimization. They arranged chores in sequences that maintained body heat through continuous motion, timed meals to coincide with the body's natural cooling cycles, and structured social interactions around shared warmth opportunities. Every aspect of existence was fine-tuned for thermal efficiency. They understood the complex thermodynamics of their dwellings with intuitive precision, how to lay rushes on floors to create insulating air pockets, where to hang wet clothing to benefit from rising heat without increasing humidity, how to position sleeping areas to capture residual warmth from daytime activities. This environmental engineering was their silent masterpiece. Their sensory perception became calibrated to minute thermal variations. They could feel the slight temperature differential that indicated a hidden draft, detect the subtle warmth signature of different family members in total darkness, sense the precise moment when banked timbers needed attention. This sensory refinement made them partners with their environment rather than its victims. The rhythm of their relationships danced to thermal music, knowing when a touch would comfort rather than chill, understanding how shared silence could generate more warmth than unnecessary conversation, recognizing when physical proximity needed to give way to individual space. This thermal emotional intelligence bound them together in profound ways. Their understanding of time embraced both circular and linear dimensions. The cyclical certainty of seasons provided psychological comfort, while the linear progression of each winter demanded practical action. This dual temporal awareness allowed them to balance acceptance with agency. In our modern climate-controlled existence, we've lost this intimate thermal dialogue. The medieval peasant understood that true resilience comes from working with natural forces rather than overwhelming them, that security emerges from adaptation rather than domination, and that the deepest warmth often comes from connections forged in shared challenge. Their legacy endures in the human capacity to find grace under pressure, to discover innovation within constraint, and to recognize that the most valuable resources are often those we create together through shared struggle and mutual care. They remind us that we remain creatures of this earth, capable of remarkable adaptation when we remember to listen to the wisdom of our bodies, to the needs of our communities, and to the enduring truth that spring always follows winter. No matter how long the night may seem, they learned to read the subtle language of smoke and steam, how the way breath plumed in the morning air predicted the day's character, how the specific curl of smoke from a chimney indicated the fire's health, how steam rising from a cooking pot revealed both temperature and humidity. These ephemeral signals became their daily weather station. Their hands became calibrated instruments of thermal measurement. A quick touch to a stone wall could estimate the outdoor temperature. Fingers brushed against a child's cheek could assess vital warmth without waking them. Palms placed on the earth could feel the frost's depth and severity. This tactile wisdom operated beneath conscious thought. They developed a sophisticated understanding of microclimates within their dwellings, how heat pooled in specific corners during different hours, where cold air settled and needed to be blocked with strategic hangings, which walls transmitted outdoor temperatures and required extra insulation. This spatial thermal mapping was crucial for survival. The rhythm of their days followed nature's thermal currents, rather than mechanical time, working when sunlight provided supplemental warmth, resting during the coldest hours when activity wasted precious energy, organizing chores to maintain continuous body heat through methodical motion. This thermal choreography turned survival into a kind of dance. They mastered the art of thermal banking, not just with fire embers, but with stones heated for bedding, with cooked foods that retained warmth for hours, with a strategic arrangement of bodies during sleep. This multi-layered approach to heat conservation was their genius. Their sensory awareness expanded to detect minute thermal variations, the slight temperature difference that signaled a hidden draft, the specific quality of cold that meant snow was coming, the subtle warmth patterns that revealed structural weaknesses in their shelter. This heightened perception made them partners with their environment. The darkness became their teacher of alternative awareness. With vision limited by night and indoor smoke, they learned to navigate by air pressure changes, to detect warmth sources through subtle air movements, to understand spaces through sound reflections and thermal echoes. This sensory knowledge made them deeply present. Their relationship with resources was one of profound respect. Each piece of firewood represented hours of labor and careful curing. Every blanket embodied the work of shearing, spinning, and weaving. All stored food contained the memory of summer's abundance. This material consciousness fostered sustainable practices. In our climate-controlled modernity, we've lost this intimate thermal dialogue. The medieval peasant understood that true resilience comes from working with natural forces rather than overwhelming them, that security emerges from adaptation rather than domination, and that the deepest warmth often grows from connections forged in shared challenge. Their legacy endures in our human capacity to find innovation within constraint, to discover abundance and apparent scarcity, then to recognize that the most valuable resources are often invisible. The accumulated wisdom of generations, the strength of community bonds, and the stubborn hope that knows light follows darkness, as certainly as spring follows winter. They remind us that we remain creatures of this earth, capable of extraordinary grace under pressure. When we remember to listen to the wisdom in our bones, to the needs of our communities, and to the quiet truth that sometimes the greatest strength is found not in fighting the cold, but in learning to move with its rhythm, while keeping our inner fire burning. The medieval peasant's winter was a masterclass in sustainable survival. Their existence depended on 5 interconnected pillars of ancient wisdom. Thermal management became both science and art in their hands. They understood how heat flowed through their dwellings like water. Stone walls served as thermal batteries, storing daytime warmth. Thatched roofs created insulating air pockets against the cold. Even the placement of furniture followed thermal principles. They positioned beds where body heat would accumulate naturally. They arranged cooking areas to maximize residual warmth. Every opening was designed to capture sunlight's precious energy. Resource optimization reached its pinnacle in their practices. Nothing was wasted in their circular economy. A single log provided heat, light, and dash for gardening. Animal fat became food, lubricant, and weather protection. Wool served as clothing, bedding, and insulation material. Even human waste was composted to enrich spring soil. They practiced what we now call cradle to minus cradle design. Every resource was valued for its multiple potential uses. This mindset of abundance through efficiency sustained them. Community cooperation was their greatest survival technology. Villages functioned as extended families during winter months. They developed sophisticated systems of mutual aid. Firewood was shared with households that had elderly members. Children rotated among families to balance warmth and space. Knowledge was freely exchanged at communal gatherings. The entire village became a single living organism. This social contract ensured no one faced winter alone. Intergenerational knowledge transfer happened constantly. Elders taught the subtle signs of changing weather patterns, and others passed down food preservation techniques. Fathers showed sons how to select the best firewood. This living library of practical wisdom was their true wealth. Each generation added new discoveries to the collective knowledge. The continuity of survival skills was never broken. Psychological resilience was carefully cultivated. They developed rituals to mark the winter's progression. Storytelling preserved cultural identity during long nights. Music and dance maintained community morale. They viewed challenges as opportunities for ingenuity. This mindset transformed survival from burden to purpose. Their legacy offers profound lessons for our modern world. True sustainability comes from working with natural cycles. Community remains our most valuable resource. Efficiency emerges from thoughtful design. Resilience grows from adapted traditions. Wisdom lives in practical application. We have much to learn from their integrated approach. Their wisdom whispers across the centuries, reminding us that the simplest solutions are often the deepest. That innovation flourishes within constraints. That human warmth remains the most precious heat source of all. They possessed an intricate understanding of thermal science that modern physics would later validate. Their hands could gauge the moisture content of wood by its weight and texture. Their ears could distinguish between the safe settling of roof beams and dangerous structural stress. Their noses could detect the specific scent of air that meant snow was coming. This sensory intelligence was their first line of defense against the elements. They developed sophisticated climate control systems using only natural materials. Strong Inus-backed walls created dead air spaces that resisted temperature transfer. Earthen floors mixed with salt absorbed moisture while retaining warmth. Strategic window placements created convection currents that circulated air. Their hands breathed like living organisms, maintaining delicate thermal balance. Food preservation methods demonstrated remarkable scientific intuition. They understood how different salts drew moisture from meats at varying rates. They discovered which herbs contained natural preservatives to extend food viability. They learned to control fermentation processes through temperature management. Each storage technique represented generations of experimental knowledge. Their social organization followed principles we now recognize as systems theory. They assigned tasks based on individual thermal tolerance and physical capacity. They rotated strenuous outdoor work to prevent hypothermia and exhaustion. They established communication networks to share weather warnings and resources. This organizational wisdom maximized collective survival chances. Psychological resilience was systematically cultivated through cultural practices. Winter storytelling sessions preserved knowledge while combating seasonal depression. Craft traditions provided purposeful activity during confinement periods. Communal singing generated both physical warmth and emotional uplift. They transformed winter from enemy to teacher through mental reframing. Their relationship with time displayed remarkable sophistication. They balanced immediate survival needs with long-term planning. They maintained seasonal calendars based on astronomical observations. They developed intergenerational projects that outlasted individual lifespans. This temporal perspective gave meaning to their daily struggles. Material science innovations emerged from relentless experimentation. They discovered which clay mixtures produced the most durable cooking vessels. They developed textile blends that optimized warmth and moisture control. They engineered tools that multiplied human efficiency in harsh conditions. Each innovation represented countless small improvements over the generations. Ecological knowledge reached extraordinary depths. They could read animal behavior as precise weather predictors. They understood plant cycles well enough to forecast seasonal changes. They recognized subtle landscape features that indicated microclimates. This environmental literacy informed every survival decision. Their legacy offers profound lessons for our technological age. Advanced solutions often emerge from deep engagement with basic needs. Sustainable systems must harmonize with natural rhythms rather than dominate them. True innovation frequently blossoms within constraints, not despite them. Human community remains the ultimate survival technology. We stand to rediscover these truths as we face our own planetary challenges. The wisdom reminds us that the most elegant solutions often precede modern science. That resilience grows from adapted traditions, not just new inventions. That human warmth, in all its meanings, remains our most precious resource. The medieval peasant's winter was not just survived but mastered through integrated wisdom. They understood thermal science generations before formal thermodynamics. Their hands could read moisture content in wood through subtle texture changes. Their ears distinguished between safe structural settling and dangerous roof stress. Their noses detected the precise scent of air that heralded approaching snow. This sensory intelligence formed their primary defense against the elements. They engineered natural climate control systems using local materials. Strong ice-packed walls created insulating dead air spaces with mathematical precision. Earthen floors mixed with specific salts managed humidity while retaining warmth. Strategically placed openings generated convection currents for air circulation. Their dwellings functioned as breathing organisms, maintaining thermal equilibrium. Food preservation methods demonstrated extraordinary scientific intuition. Different salts drew moisture from meats at carefully calibrated rates. Certain herbs provided natural preservatives to extend food viability. Temperature-controlled fermentation processes were mastered through observation. Each storage technique represented generations of experimental knowledge. Social organization followed principles modern science would call systems theory. Tasks were assigned based on individual thermal tolerance and physical capacity. Strenuous outdoor work was rotated to prevent hypothermia and exhaustion. Communication networks shared weather warnings and resource availability. This organizational wisdom maximized collective survival probability. Psychological resilience was systematically cultivated through cultural practices. Winter storytelling preserved knowledge while combating seasonal depression. Craft traditions provided purposeful activity during confinement periods. Communal singing generated both physical warmth and emotional uplift. They transformed winter from adversary to teacher through mental reframing. Their relationship with time displayed remarkable sophistication. Immediate survival needs were balanced with long-term planning. Seasonal calendars were maintained through astronomical observations. Intergenerational projects outlasted individual lifespans. This temporal perspective gave meaning to daily struggles. Material science innovations emerged from relentless experimentation. Specific clay mixtures produced the most durable cooking vessels. Textile blends were developed to optimize warmth and moisture control. Tools were engineered to multiply human efficiency in harsh conditions. Each innovation represented countless, incremental improvements across generations. Ecological knowledge reached extraordinary depths. Animal behavior was read as precise weather prediction. Plant cycles were understood well enough to forecast seasonal changes. Subtle landscape features indicated microclimates and resources. This environmental literacy informed every survival decision. Their legacy offers crucial lessons for our technological age. Advanced solutions emerge from deep engagement with fundamental needs. Sustainable systems must harmonize with natural rhythms. True innovation often blossoms within constraints. Human community remains the ultimate survival technology. We stand to rediscover these truths facing planetary challenges. Their wisdom shows elegant solutions often precede modern science. Resilience grows from adapted traditions, not just new inventions. Human warmth in all meanings remains our most precious resource. The medieval peasant mastered winter through integrated wisdom. Their thermal management approached artistic perfection. Sleeping arrangements followed precise thermodynamic calculations. Body heat distribution was optimized through strategic positioning. Heat loss was minimized through controlled movement patterns. Every action conserved precious energy reserves. Resource utilization achieved near minus total efficiency. Nothing was wasted in their circular economy. Single logs provided heat-lightened valuable ash. Animal fats served as food lubricant and weather protection, or functioned as clothing, bedding, and insulation simultaneously. Community cooperation reached sophisticated levels. Villages maintained emergency resource banks. Rotating watch systems ensured continuous safety. Conflict resolution prioritized communal harmony. Survival required absolute cooperation always. Knowledge transmission occurred through multiple channels. Practical skills were taught through hands minus on apprenticeships. Ecological wisdom passed through storytelling and song. Technical knowledge transferred via demonstration. Complex survival strategies remained intact for centuries. Psychological resilience was carefully nurtured. Winter solstice rituals created psychological milestones. Storytelling reinforced perseverance values. Music provided both practical and therapeutic benefits. Confinement periods became opportunities for creativity. Environmental awareness represented deep understanding. Animal behavior predicted weather changes accurately. Ice formations indicated temperature trends precisely. Plant growth patterns signaled soil conditions clearly. Its literacy enabled adaptation to each unique winter. Their integrated wisdom remains profoundly relevant. Climate uncertainty demands similar adaptation strategies. Resource constraints require efficient utilization methods. Community cooperation needs revitalization today. Their example offers sustainable living paradigms. Technological sophistication and simple wisdom coexist. Elegant solutions marry observation with application. Small improvements accumulate across generations. True progress serves both individual and community needs. Historical knowledge informs contemporary challenges. The medieval winter classroom taught enduring lessons. Resilience emerges from necessity and creativity. Community strength surpasses individual capability. Natural systems demand respect and understanding. Human adaptability triumphs over adversity. Quiet winter triumphs monument human ingenuity. Collective wisdom outlasts temporary hardships. Integrated approaches solve complex problems. Ancient knowledge informs modern sustainability. Their legacy continues to guide us forward. They learned to read the patterns of frost on the window shutters like a sacred text. Each crystalline formation told a story of the night's severity and the day to come. The feathery patterns spoke of gentle cold, while the thick, opaque sheets warned of deep frost. This daily divination shaped their preparations and their hopes. They understood the language of the wind through every season. The winter wind spoke in a different voice than the summer breeze, sharper, clearer, carrying different scents. They could distinguish between the wind that brought snow and the wind that brought clear skies. This knowledge allowed them to prepare for storms days in advance. Their bodies became living calendars of the agricultural year. Muscles remembered the rhythms of planting and harvest even in deep winter. Hands instinctively moved through the motions of tasks yet months away. This physical memory connected them to the earth's cycles even when snow covered the fields. They developed a sophisticated understanding of material properties, knowing which woods burned cleanly and which smoked excessively, understanding how different clays held heat for cooking, recognizing which animal furs provided the best protection against damp cold. This material wisdom was their everyday technology. The architecture of their homes reflected generations of accumulated knowledge. Walls were thickened after particularly harsh winters. Roof pitches were adjusted to shed snow more effectively. Window placements were modified to capture maximum sunlight. Each modification represented a lesson learned through experience. The social structures were finely tuned to survival needs. Communal cooking during the coldest months conserved fuel and warmth. Childcare was shared to allow all adults to contribute to essential tasks. Elders were respected not just for tradition, but for their store of survival knowledge. This social engineering was as crucial as any physical preparation. They cultivated what we might now call environmental empathy, understanding that the forest was not just a resource, but a living community, recognizing that the animals they hunted were also struggling to survive, seeing themselves as part of, rather than separate from, the natural world. This perspective shaped their conservation practices. Time moved differently in their world, measured in natural cycles. The position of the sun and stars marked the hours. The phases of the moon divided the months. The migration of birds and the flowering of plants marked the seasons. This celestial calendar kept them connected to cosmic rhythms. Their legacy offers profound insights for our modern challenges. In an age of climate change, their adaptation strategies are newly relevant. In a time of social fragmentation, that community cohesion inspires. In an era of waste, their conservation ethic instructs. Their wisdom speaks across the centuries with urgent relevance. We have much to learn from their integrated approach to life, seeing challenges as opportunities for innovation, valuing community as essential to survival, understanding that true wealth lies in shared resources and knowledge, recognizing that human creativity flourishes within constraints. The medieval peasant's winter was not merely endured but transformed. Through cooperation, hardship became meaningful. Through ingenuity, limitation became inspiration. Through perseverance, darkness became a canvas for human light. Their example reminds us of our own capacity for transformation. As we face our own winters, literal and metaphorical, their wisdom offers guidance and hope, teaching us that the coldest season can become a time of inner growth, that the darkest nights can reveal the brightest stars, that the human spirit, like the medieval peasant in winter, can find ways not just to survive, but to thrive. They mastered the subtle art of reading nature's whispers in the frozen landscape. The way ice crystals formed on bare branches spoke volumes about coming weather patterns. The particular hush that fell over the snowfields warned of impending storms. The behavior of smoke rising from their chimneys became a daily weather forecast. This deep environmental literacy was their most valuable survival tool. Their understanding of thermal dynamics manifested in countless ingenious practices. They discovered that placing heated stones near sleeping areas provided warmth for hours. They learned that hanging damp cloths near fires created beneficial humidity in dry winter air. They realized that packing snow around food storage areas maintained consistent cool temperatures. Each discovery represented another piece in their intricate survival puzzle. Resource management became a sacred duty passed through generations. Children learned to identify trees that would provide the best firewood by the texture of their bark. Women taught daughters which plant materials made the most effective insulation. Men showed sons how to store root vegetables to last through the longest winters. This intergenerational knowledge transfer ensured the community's continuity. Social structures evolved to meet the unique demands of winter survival. The village developed a system where those with the warmest homes sheltered the most vulnerable. Communal kitchens were established during the coldest weeks to conserve fuel. A barter system emerged where wolf-miners related services held the highest value. This social adaptation demonstrated remarkable organizational sophistication. Psychological resilience was cultivated through carefully maintained traditions. Winter storytelling sessions preserved both practical knowledge and cultural identity. The crafting of useful items during long nights provided purpose and productivity. Community singing generated not just emotional warmth, but physical heat through shared activity. These practices transformed survival from mere endurance into meaningful existence. Their relationship with time reflected a profound understanding of natural cycles. They measured days by the quality of light on the snow rather than by clock hours. They marked weeks by the gradual depletion and renewal of their winter stores. They understood seasons as interconnected chapters in a continuous story of survival. This temporal perspective gave depth and meaning to their daily struggles. Material innovation emerged from relentless experimentation with available resources. They discovered that mixing specific clays created more durable cooking vessels. They developed weaving techniques that produced textiles with optimal thermal properties. They engineered tools that multiplied human efficiency in challenging conditions. Each innovation represented the cumulative wisdom of countless previous generations. Ecological awareness reached extraordinary levels of sophistication. They could predict weather changes by observing animal behavior days in advance. They understood how different snow textures indicated varying temperature patterns. They recognized subtle landscape features that signaled underground water sources. This environmental intelligence informed every aspect of their winter strategy. The legacy of their integrated wisdom offers crucial insights for modern challenges. In an age of climate uncertainty, their adaptation strategies are remarkably relevant. In a time of resource constraints, their conservation ethics provide guidance. In an era of social fragmentation, the community models offer inspiration. Their example demonstrates sustainable living born from practical necessity. Perhaps most importantly, their experience reminds us of fundamental human capacities, the ability to find creative solutions within limitations, the capacity to build strong communities around shared needs, the wisdom to work in harmony with natural systems rather than against them, the understanding that true progress serves both individual and collective well-being. The medieval peasant's approach to winter represents a masterpiece of human adaptation. It shows how challenges can become opportunities for innovation. It demonstrates how constraints can inspire creativity. It proves how cooperation can transform hardship into meaningful shared experience. Their quiet triumph over winter's harshness stands as a timeless testament to human resilience. As we face our own challenges in a rapidly changing world, their wisdom speaks across centuries, teaching us that the most elegant solutions often emerge from engagement with basic needs, reminding us that community remains our greatest resource, showing us that sustainability begins with working in rhythm with natural cycles. Their legacy continues to illuminate the path toward resilient living. In the end, the medieval peasant's winter was not just survived but mastered. Through the integration of practical knowledge, social cooperation, and environmental awareness, through the cultivation of psychological resilience and intergenerational wisdom, through the transformation of limitation into opportunity, their example remains a beacon of hope and inspiration for all who face adversity. The quiet dignity of their survival strategy continues to teach vital lessons about the power of community in overcoming challenges, about the importance of living in harmony with natural cycles, about the human capacity for innovation when faced with necessity. Their wisdom, forged in winter's crucible, remains eternally relevant. As the modern world rediscovers the value of sustainable practices, their example gains new significance, showing that true resilience comes from adaptation rather than domination, demonstrating that security emerges from cooperation rather than competition, proving that abundance can be found through efficiency rather than consumption. Their legacy offers a blueprint for thriving in an uncertain future. The medieval peasant's winter mastery stands as a monument to human ingenuity, a testament to what communities can achieve when working together, a demonstration of how wisdom grows through generations of careful observation, a reminder that the simplest solutions are often the most profound. Their quiet triumph continues to inspire all who seek to live wisely on this earth. In every carefully banked fire, every shared blanket, every stored provision, we see their wisdom. In every storm predicted, every resource conserved, every community supported, we learn their lessons. In every winter survived, every spring welcomed, every generation sustained, we honor their legacy. The medieval peasant's approach to winter remains one of humanity's greatest achievements in sustainable living. Their example continues to light our way forward, century after century. They became fluent in the silent language of their icy environment. The intricate patterns of frost on branches told detailed stories of impending storms. A deep stillness settling across the snowfields signaled approaching severe weather. The manner in which smoke curled from their hearths provided constant climatic insight. This intimate dialogue with their surroundings formed the foundation of their continued existence. The practical application of thermal principles revealed itself through refined methods. They found that stones heated in evening fires radiated comforting warmth until dawn. They understood that evaporating water near heat sources improved harsh indoor air. They knew that surrounding food caches with compacted snow ensured perfect preservation. Each refined technique represented a hard -1 victory in their ongoing struggle. Stewardship of resources evolved into a sacred tradition, handed down through familial lines. The young worked ought to recognize optimal firewood by studying the grain of tree bark. Mothers demonstrated which harvested grasses provided superior thermal resistance when woven. Fathers instructed their children in techniques for preserving vegetables through freezing months. His careful passage of understanding guaranteed the tribe's endurance across ages. Their community structure adapted specifically to confront winter's relentless demands. Their collective agreement emerged where households with surplus warmth sheltered the frail. Shared cooking spaces operated, bring deep cold to maximize energy efficiency. An economy developed where services ensuring warmth commanded the greatest respect. This collaborative organization reflected their sophisticated social development. Mental fortitude was nurtured through purposeful cultural activities maintained year after year. The tradition of gathering for stories preserved both survival techniques and shared history. Creating essential goods during dark evenings provided a sense of accomplishment. Group singing generated not only emotional comfort, but measurable warmth for exertion. These customs transformed the harsh season from a trial to endure into a meaningful passage. Their perception of time reflected a sophisticated alignment with nature's rhythms. They measured the day's progress by observing how sunlight moved across ice crystals. They tracked the passage of weeks by monitoring their carefully managed food reserves. They comprehended the turning seasons as interconnected episodes in a continuous narrative. This cyclical awareness brought profound significance to their daily existence. Technical progress emerged from persistent refinement of locally available materials. They perfected clay mixtures that produced cooking pots resistant to thermal shock. They invented weaving methods that created fabrics with ideal insulating qualities. They designed implements that dramatically enhanced human effort in snowy conditions. Each improvement represented the accumulated intelligence of countless ancestors. Their ecological understanding achieved remarkable levels of nuanced comprehension. They could anticipate weather shifts by watching wildlife behavior days in advance. They recognized how different snow densities indicated specific temperature trends. They identified subtle terrain characteristics that revealed hidden water supplies. This sophisticated environmental knowledge guided every decision they made. The enduring legacy of their holistic wisdom provides crucial perspectives for contemporary problems. In this period of climatic instability, their adaptive approaches gain renewed importance. During an age of material limitations, their conservation principles offer clear direction. At a time of social dislocation, their community frameworks present compelling models. Their experience illustrates sustainable existence, emerging from direct necessity. Most significantly, their history recalls essential human capabilities we still possess. The ingenuity to discover elegant answers within restrictive circumstances. The strength to forge resilient communities bound by mutual requirement. The insight to collaborate with natural processes rather than oppose them. For realization that authentic advancement serves both personal and collective welfare. The medieval villager's confrontation with winter represents a pinnacle of human adaptation. It reveals how adversity can be transformed into catalysts for invention. It demonstrates how restrictions can stimulate creative thinking. It confirms how mutual aid can convert difficulty into purposeful shared living. Their successful coexistence with winter's severity remains an enduring monument to human perseverance. As we navigate contemporary challenges in a transforming world, their knowledge resonates across time, instructing us that the most graceful solutions frequently arise from addressing fundamental needs, reminding us that community continues to be our most powerful asset, revealing that sustainability starts by moving in synchrony with environmental patterns. Their inheritance continues to guide the way toward resilient existence. Ultimately, the medieval peasant didn't merely endure winter, but engaged with it masterfully. Through combining practical skills, social cohesion, and environmental attunement, through fostering psychological strength and cross-generational wisdom, through converting constraints into possibilities for growth, their example persists as a source of hope for all confronting difficulty. A quiet authority of their survival approach continues to impart essential truths regarding the strength found in unity when overcoming obstacles, about the critical importance of aligning life with natural cycles, concerning the human potential for creativity when driven by need. Their understanding, tempered in winter's fierce crucible, maintains everlasting relevance. As contemporary society reconsiders sustainable living, their practices acquire fresh meaning, showing that true resilience stems from adaptation, not control, demonstrating that security arises from cooperation, not conflict, proving that abundance can be achieved through efficiency, not accumulation. Their legacy provides a foundational plan for prospering in unpredictable times. A medieval peasant's winter proficiency stands as a tribute to human resourcefulness, a confirmation of what communities can accomplish through collective action, a display of how wisdom accumulates over generations of attentive observation, a recollection that the most elementary answers are often the most insightful. Their quiet success continues to motivate all who seek to live thoughtfully on this planet. In each thoughtfully maintained fire, each mutually shared covering, each prudently stored supply, we witness their intelligence. In every accurately predicted storm, every conserved resource, every supported neighbor, we learn their principles. In every survived winter, every celebrated spring, every sustained generation, we honor their heritage. The medieval peasant strategy for winter remains among humanity's most significant accomplishments in sustainable living. The model continues to illuminate our path forward, century after century. They deciphered the grammar of frost and wind, reading the landscape like a sacred text. Each crystal formation on a pine needle carried specific meteorological meaning. The peculiar quality of silence that precedes snowfall became their advanced warning system. Smoke behavior from hearths served as their continuous atmospheric consultation. This environmental intimacy constituted their primary defensive strategy. Their manipulation of heat reflected sophisticated physical understanding. They positioned sun-warmed stones within living spaces to extend natural thermal gain. They suspended porous containers of water to moderate indoor climate conditions. They constructed underground storage systems that utilized geothermal consistency. Each implementation demonstrated progressive mastery over their immediate environment. Resource stewardship transformed into a complex cultural ritual. Elders instructed youths in identifying tree species by the sound wind made in their branches. Knowledge holders shared techniques for creating composite insulating materials from varied sources. Specialists developed advanced food preservation methods, using ice and controlled fermentation. This vertical transmission of expertise formed the backbone of their resilience. Their social architecture reflected meticulous cold-weather adaptation. Residence patterns dynamically shifted based on thermal efficiency and protective capacity. Food preparation became centralized during temperature extremes to optimize energy use. A prestige economy developed around contributions to community warmth and security. These structural adaptations represented highly evolved social intelligence. Psychological resilience was systematically engineered through cultural mechanisms. Narrative traditions encoded survival information within memorable mythological frameworks. The production of artifacts during confinement periods maintained skills and morale. Coordinated vocal performances produced both physiological and social warming effects. These practices effectively converted survival challenges into identity-forming experiences. Their temporal consciousness operated within nature's cyclical framework. They tracked time through observable phenomena like ice thickness and snow composition. They measured seasons by the systematic reduction and replenishment of vital resources. They conceptualized their existence as participants in eternal natural recurrence. This philosophical orientation provided profound context for their daily struggles. Material culture evolved through continuous experimentation with local elements. They developed ceramic technologies capable of withstanding extreme thermal variation. They engineered textile systems that optimized thermal retention and moisture management. They created mechanical lathes that amplified human capacity in frozen conditions. Each technological advancement represented generations of accumulated practical knowledge. Their ecosystem comprehension reached extraordinary levels of integration. They interpreted animal migration patterns as precise seasonal indicators. They understood snow crystal structures as records of atmospheric conditions. They could locate subsurface resources through subtle topographic manifestations. This sophisticated environmental literacy informed their every decision and action. The enduring relevance of their integrated knowledge system offers critical insights. In our era of climate disruption, their adaptive strategies provide valuable case studies. During resource constraints, their conservation ethics present viable alternatives. Amid social fragmentation, their community models suggest reconciliation pathways. Their example demonstrates how sustainable systems emerge from practical necessity. Fundamentally, their experience reveals enduring human capabilities we often overlook. The capacity to generate innovative solutions within constrained circumstances. The ability to construct supportive communities around shared vulnerability. The wisdom to integrate human activity within natural systems. The understanding that meaningful progress balances individual and collective needs. The medieval community's winter adaptation represents human ingenuity at its most refined. It illustrates how environmental pressures can catalyze cultural innovation. It demonstrates how physical limitations can inspire technological creativity. It shows how shared challenges can forge powerful social cohesion. Their successful navigation of seasonal extremity stands as testament to human adaptability. As we confront our own complex challenges, their wisdom offers valuable perspective, teaching that elegant solutions often emerge from engaging fundamental realities, reminding that community remains our most reliable resource, showing that sustainability requires synchronizing with natural rhythms. Their legacy continues to inform approaches to resilient living. Ultimately, these communities achieved mastery through comprehensive integration by uniting practical knowledge with social organization and environmental awareness, by cultivating psychological resilience alongside intergenerational wisdom, by transforming external limitations into opportunities for development. Their example remains relevant for all facing significant challenges. The quiet effectiveness of their approach continues to convey important truths about the power of collective action in overcoming adversity, without the necessity of aligning human activity with natural cycles, about the human capacity for innovation when motivated by need. Their understanding, forged through seasonal challenge, maintains contemporary significance. As modern society rediscovers sustainable principles, their practices gain new resonance, demonstrating that resilience emerges from adaptation rather than control, showing that security derives from cooperation rather than competition, proving that abundance can be achieved through efficiency rather than consumption. Their legacy provides foundational principles for thriving in uncertainty. The medieval winter adaptation stands as monument to human creativity, a testament to communal achievement through collaborative effort, a demonstration of how wisdom compounds through careful observation, a reminder that profound solutions often appear in simplest forms. Their quiet success continues to inspire those seeking harmonious existence. In each maintained hearth, shared resource, and stored provision, we see their intelligence. In every accurate prediction, conserved material, and supported member, we learn their ways. In every survived winter, welcomed spring, and sustained generation, we honor their legacy. The medieval approach to winter represents humanity's sophisticated adaptation to natural challenge. Their example continues to guide our journey forward, offering timeless wisdom for contemporary problems. The frozen earth whispers secrets to those who listen. Atoms of ice crystals foretell the coming weather. A deep silence where the snowfields warns of approaching storms. The dance of chimney smoke paints the daily forecast. This environmental awareness forms the foundation for survival. Thermal wisdom manifests in carefully honed practices. Stone walls absorbed daytime warmth for nighttime release. Damp cloths hung near fires balance indoor humidity. Snow minus packed storage chambers maintain constant temperatures. Resource stewardship passes through generations as sacred knowledge. Children learn firewood quality by studying bark textures. Mothers teach which plant fibers provide superior insulation. Fathers demonstrate root vegetable preservation techniques. Social structures evolve to meet winter's unique demands. Households with warmth shelter the most vulnerable. Communal kitchens conserve fuel during deep cold. A barter system values warmth minus related services highest. Psychological resilience grows through maintained traditions. Storytelling preserves practical knowledge and cultural identity. Crafting during long nights provides purpose and productivity. Community singing generates both emotional and physical warmth. Their relationship with time follows natural cycles. Days are measured by sunlight's quality on snow. Weeks are marked by the ebb and flow of winter stores. Seasons are understood as interconnected chapters. Material innovation springs from relentless experimentation. Clay mixtures yield durable thermal minus resistant pottery. Weaving techniques create optimal insulating textiles. Tool designs maximize efficiency in frozen conditions. Ecological awareness reaches extraordinary sophistication. Animal behavior predicts weather changes days in advance. Snow textures reveal intricate temperature patterns. Landscape features signal hidden water sources. This integrated wisdom offers crucial modern insights. Their adaptation strategies speak to climate uncertainty. Their conservation ethics guide resource constraints. Their community models inspire social cohesion. Their legacy reminds us of fundamental human capacities. Finding creative solutions within limitations. Building strong communities around shared needs. Working in harmony with natural systems. Understanding progress serves both individual and collective good. The medieval approach to winter represents human adaptation mastered. Challenges become opportunities for innovation. Constraints inspire creativity. Cooperation transforms hardship into shared meaning. As we face our own changing world, their wisdom echoes across centuries. The most elegant solutions emerge from engagement with basic needs. Community remains our greatest resource. Sustainability begins by working with natural cycles. In the end, winter was not just survived but embraced. Through integrated knowledge and social cooperation, through psychological resilience and intergenerational wisdom, through transforming limitation into opportunity, their quiet dignity continues to teach vital lessons about community's power to overcome challenges, about living in harmony with natural cycles, about human capacity for innovation when faced with necessity. As modernity rediscovers sustainable practices, their example gains significance. True resilience comes from adaptation rather than domination. Security emerges from cooperation rather than competition. Abundance is found through efficiency rather than consumption. The medieval winter mastery stands as a human monument, a testament to what communities can achieve together, a demonstration of wisdom growing through observation, a reminder that simplest solutions are often most profound. In each banked fire and shared blanket we see their intelligence. In every predicted storm and conserved resource we learn their ways. In every survived winter and welcomed spring we honor their legacy. Their approach to winter remains a mark of sustainable living. Their example continues to light our path forward. The wind's voice through pine needles spoke of changing pressures. Animal tracks in fresh, no revealed coming temperature shifts. The scent of approaching precipitation carried on cold air. These subtle signals formed their unwritten survival guide. Heat became their willing servant through careful observation. South minus facing rock formations stored the sun's generous gifts. Double minus layered walls trapped precious warmth like woolen blankets. Smoke channels carved through ice directed life minus giving airflows. Every resource held multiple purposes in their skilled hands. Tree bark became both fuel and writing surface. Animal hides transformed into clothing and shelter. Melted snow provided both water and temperature regulation. Their society moved with the rhythm of the gathering cold. The strongest hunters shared their catches without expectation. The oldest members offered wisdom earned through many winters. The youngest children learned through helping and watching. Minds remained sharp through the long darkness. Memory games preserved crucial survival knowledge. Star patterns mapped on ice taught navigation skills. Rhythmic work songs maintained morale and synchronization. Time became measured in practical accomplishments. A day was counted by wood chopped and water drawn. A week was marked by food stores organized and replenished. A season was known by tasks completed and knowledge shared. Their innovations emerged from patient experimentation. Frozen river crossings became opportunities for ice architecture. Limited materials inspired clever multi-minus purpose tools. Scarcity fostered creativity in every household task. The land communicated constantly to attentive senses. Different bird calls indicated varying storm intensities, where thickness patterns predicted safe travel route. Tree growth directions revealed prevailing wind information. This accumulated wisdom speaks across the centuries. Their adaptation methods offer climate change solutions. Their resourcefulness provides models for sustainability. The community values suggest social healing paths. The profound lesson remains in their seasonal rhythm. True security grows from understanding natural limits. Human potential flourishes within cooperative communities. Meaningful existence arises from serving basic needs. Their winter mastery represents humanity at its most resourceful, transforming survival challenges into cultural achievements, converting environmental constraints into creative opportunities, building enduring legacies through shared struggle. The echoes of their wisdom remain relevant today, teaching us to read nature's subtle language, showing how community creates collective resilience, reminding us that innovation springs from necessity, in every carefully observed natural sign, in every shared resource and skill, in every generation's added knowledge, we find the enduring blueprint for thriving. Their legacy lies in each mindful adaptation, each cooperative effort during difficulty, each creative solution to limitation, each season faced with courage and wisdom. The forest's breath carries ancient knowledge. Each snowflake holds a story of distant skies. Rivers sleeping under ice continue their silent journey. Mountains stand as eternal witnesses to our adaptation. We learned to hear the moon's guidance on clear nights, to feel the earth's deep rhythms through frozen ground, to see the sun's subtle shifts in pale winter light, to taste the wind's warnings before storms arrived. Our hands became extensions of the natural world, carving shelter from what the storm provided, weaving warmth from what the land offered, crafting tools from what the seasons yielded. The great cold taught us profound truths, but isolation breeds vulnerability. That shared warmth creates strength, that prepared minds overcome desperate circumstances. We discovered hidden patterns in nature's tapestry, how animal behaviors mirror weather changes, how plant cycles predict seasonal transitions, how water remembers all it has witnessed, and memories became living libraries, storing generations of observed wisdom, preserving solutions to forgotten challenges, connecting past understandings to present needs. The long darkness cultivated inner light. Quiet moments fostered deep reflection. Shared stories strengthened communal bonds. Collective patience built remarkable resilience. We learned to move with nature's rhythm, not against her powerful currents, to work within her generous limits, to honor her delicate balances. The ice eventually recedes each year, but its lessons remain etched in our souls, teaching us humility before greater forces, showing us strength through adaptation, guiding us toward harmony with all existence. This wisdom flows through our communities, like meltwater feeding spring pastures, nourishing each new generation, sustaining our continuous becoming. We are both students and teachers, learning from those who walked before, guiding those who will follow after, adding our chapter to the eternal story. The cold returns in its appointed season, and we meet it with earned confidence, carrying forward what our ancestors discovered, adding new insights for those yet to come. In this endless cycle of learning and teaching, we find our purpose and our peace, not conquering nature, but joining herd ants, not fearing winter, but understanding its gifts. The seasons turn in endless conversation. Each sunrise writes a new verse in nature's epic. The moon's phases measure time in silver light. Stars chart courses through the crystal night. We have learned to read the world's deep language, in the way snow settles on pine boughs, in the patterns of frost on frozen streams, in the direction smoke takes from our hearths. And knowledge grows like rings in ancient trees. Each generation adds another layer, building on what our ancestors discovered, refining what our elders taught us. The forest shares its secrets with patient listeners. Different birds bring different messages. The color of the sky at dawn speaks volumes. The behavior of animals tells coming changes. We have become partners with the cold, understanding its rhythms and requirements, working with its limitations and possibilities, finding abundance within its constraints. Our community moves as one organism, sharing warmth, sharing food, sharing knowledge. The strong support the weak. The experienced guide the young. The long nights become opportunities for teaching and learning, for stories and songs, for planning and preparing, for rest and reflection, for remembering who we are and why we remain. The ice teaches important lessons about patience and perseverance, about strength and flexibility, about stillness and movement. We carry forward what matters most: the wisdom of our grandparents, the courage of our parents, the hope of our children, in every carefully stored provision, in every shared piece of wisdom, in every act of kindness. We build our future. The snow will melt, the streams will flow again, but what we learn in winter's embrace remains etched in our hearts and minds, guiding us through all seasons to come. We are keepers of this precious knowledge, guardians of these ancient ways, stewards of this enduring wisdom that allows life to flourish even in challenge. The cold has shaped us but not broken us. The darkness has taught us, but not defeated us. The challenges have strengthened, not weakened us. We emerge from each winter wiser than before. This is our story, our legacy, our gift to the generations that will follow, to the children yet unborn, to the future waiting to be written. In the great cycle of giving and receiving, of learning and teaching, of living and remembering, we find our purpose and our peace, our connection to all that was and all that will be. We are but temporary guardians of eternal truths. The frost etches wisdom upon our window panes. The wind carries voices from generations past. The snow blankets both memory and promise. Our footsteps trace patterns known to our ancestors, each path worn smooth by countless journeys, each landmark telling stories of survival, each season adding layers to our understanding. The fire in our hearth connects us to all who came before. Its flames darts with the same light they once tended. Its warmth echoes the same comfort they once shared. Its glow preserves the same hopes they once cherished. We have learned to see the world through winter's eyes, where scarcity reveals true abundance, where stillness teaches profound movement, where darkness makes visible the brightest stars. The ice mirrors our own transient nature, solid yet flowing, enduring yet changing, barren yet teeming with hidden life, severe yet beautiful in its simplicity. Our knowledge flows like underground streams, sometimes surfacing in moments of insight, sometimes running deep through generations, always nourishing the roots of our being. The animals teach us their ancient wisdom, the bear's patience in hibernation, the fox's cunning in hunting, the wolf's strength in community. We have become interpreters of subtle signs, reading the language of cloud formations, deciphering the messages in bird migrations, understanding the stories written in tree rings. Our hands remember what our minds might forget: the proper way to bank the evening fire, the precise angle to set a snowshoe, the exact pressure to place on an ice-minus fishing line. The long nights weave us together, sharing warmth in crowded dwellings, passing tales around flickering flames, dreaming collective dreams beneath frozen skies. We measure our lives in winters survived, each year adding depth to our resilience, each challenge met with hard -1 wisdom, each spring arriving as both surprise and certainty. The cold has sculpted our very character, teaching endurance without bitterness, showing strength without arrogance, revealing beauty without pretension. Her children learn through living participation, their small hands helping with essential tasks, their bright eyes watching every careful action, their fresh minds absorbing timeless knowledge. We are bridges between what was and what will be, honoring traditions while embracing change, preserving wisdom while seeking new understanding, maintaining values while adapting to new realities. The seasons continue their endless turning, and we continue our endless learning, each winter writing new verses in our story, each spring adding new hope to our legacy. In this great cycle of freezing and thawing, of darkness and light, of ending and beginning, we find our place, our purpose, our meaning, part of something ancient, something eternal. The snow will eventually surrender to sunlight. The ice will once again become flowing water. But what we've learned in the time of cold will remain, will guide, will sustain. We carry forward not just survival skills, but a way of being, a way of seeing, a reverence for life's delicate balance, a commitment to future generations. This is our inheritance and our responsibility, written not in books, but in living practice, spoken not in lectures but in shared experience, preserved not in museums but in daily life. We are the current bearers of this flame, tending its light through the long darkness, passing it carefully to waiting hands, ensuring its glow never fades from the world. The ice remembers what the land has forgotten. Each glacier holds millennia of stories. The permafrost preserves ancient truths. The frozen rivers pause in their eternal flow. We walk in footsteps carved by time itself. Our breath mingles with ancestors' whispers. Our hands touch what their hands once shaped. Our eyes see what their eyes first witnessed. The northern lights dance with ancestral voices. Each shimmering curtain a tapestry of memory. Each color shift a change in the old songs. Each flicker a message from beyond the veil. We have become keepers of the cold wisdom, understanding that stillness holds power, knowing that patience brings clarity, learning that emptiness contains everything. The snow teaches us about impermanence, each flake unique, yet part of the whole, each storm transformative yet temporary, each landscape beautiful in its vulnerability. Our traditions flow like underground rivers, sometimes surfacing in ceremony and story, sometimes running deep in silent knowing, always connecting us to the source. The animals are our older brothers and sisters, the caribou's endurance through long migrations, the raven's intelligence in solving problems, the ptarmigan's camouflage in white seasons. We read the world like a living manuscript. The wind's direction tells of weather shifting, the snow's texture speaks of temperature changes, the ice's thickness reveals time's passage. Our bodies remember the ancient rhythms, the way to move across fragile ice, the method to build a shelter quickly, the skill to find food in barren landscapes. The darkness becomes our teacher, showing us the light within ourselves, revealing the brightness of community, illuminating the path of tradition. We measure wisdom in winters survived, each year adding layers to our understanding, each challenge met with collective strength, each spring arriving as a collective triumph. The cold has polished our spirits, revealing the core of who we are, removing what is unnecessary, sharpening what truly matters. Our children learn through silent observation, their small hands mimicking our movements, their quick minds absorbing our knowledge, their young hearts beating with ancient rhythms. We stand between the past and future, honoring the ways of our elders, preparing the path for our descendants, maintaining the balance of generations. The stars continue their endless turning, and we continue our endless learning, each night bringing new revelations, each dawn offering new beginnings. In this great dance of ice and starlight, of memory and hope, of ending and beginning, we find our place in the cosmic pattern, part of something ancient, something eternal. The glaciers may retreat, the snows may lessen, but the wisdom of cold remains within us, written in our bones, sung in our blood, carried in the quiet spaces between heartbeats. We preserve not just survival techniques, but a way of living in harmony, a philosophy of balance and respect, a poetry of existence with the earth. This is our sacred trust and our joy, recorded not in books but in being, transmitted not through words but through living, sustained not by effort but by love. We are the current in an endless river, flowing from sources we can barely imagine, moving toward destinations we will never see, carrying the water of life forward. The ice will always have its secrets, the snow will always hold its mysteries, the cold will always teach its lessons, and we will always be its students. In the silent spaces between breaths, in the quiet moments before dawn, in the deep knowledge of the heart, we hear the whispers of eternity. We weave our lives into nature's great tapestry, each thread a story, each color a memory. The loom of time shifts with silent grace, creating patterns no eye can trace. The river of existence flows without cease, carrying moments of sorrow and peace. We stand on its banks as witnesses true to all that is ancient and all that is new. The mountains hold secrets in their stony hearts. The forests conceal life's most sacred arts. The wind carries whispers from realms beyond sight, guiding our spirits through darkness and light. We are travelers on an endless road, sharing wisdom, sharing our load. Each step we take leaves marks in the dust, proof of our journey. In nature, we trust. The moon watches over our silent dreams, casting her light on life's flowing streams. The sun warms the earth with his golden ray, turning the darkness to glorious day. Seasons will change as they always have done, winter to spring under the same timeless sun. Generations will pass like leaves on the tree, yet something essential will always be. We are the keepers of stories untold, written in hearts, more precious than gold, passed from the ancients to those yet unborn, like fields being planted with seed and with corn. The constellations above us still burn, teaching us lessons we slowly must learn. But though we are small, in the cosmic design, our lives are significant, holy, divine. In the quiet spaces between thought and deed, we'd plant the gardens from which hope will seed. In the gentle moments of kindness and care, we build a world that is loving and fair. The dance of existence continues its turn. From all that we've been to all we will learn. Each ending contains a beginning's first breath, and life celebrates both with equals est. We are both the question and the answer we seek, the powerful and also the meek, the voice that calls out and the ear that hears, the source of both laughter and tears. Let us walk gently on this earth we call home, where all living creatures may freely roam. Let us honor the gift of each day we're given, and cherish the bonds that make life worth living. For in the great web, where all things connect, every choice we make earns its due respect. Every act of compassion, however small, echoes through eternity, touching us all. We are the present between past and tomorrow, the vessels of joy and the healers of sorrow, the dreamers of visions, the makers of ways, the bringers of hope to all of our days. So let us continue this journey with grace, each in our own time and place, knowing we're part of something so grand that even eternity cannot fully understand. We are the bridge between what was and what will be. Our footsteps echo in the corridors of time. Each generation adds a verse to the eternal poem, while the earth continues its ancient rite. The stars above have witnessed countless dawns. The mountains hold the memory of ages. The rivers sing songs of forgotten years, and we are part of all these sacred pages. In the quiet spaces between our thoughts, we hear the whispers of those who came before. Their wisdom flows through our veins. Their experiences shape our very core. The moon's gentle glow illuminates our path. The sun's warm embrace gives us strength. The wind carries messages from distant lands, teaching us compassion at great length. Seasons come and go in their endless dance. Winter's chill gives way to spring's new chance. Summer's warmth matures into autumn's gold. Stories of resilience are constantly told. We are both students and teachers in this life, learning from the past, guiding for the future, holding hands across the generations. In this beautiful, fragile, human architecture, every smile we share plants seeds of hope. Every kind word spoken helps someone cope. Every act of love creates ripples in time, making the universe feel less sublime. The night sky reminds us of our small place, yet our connections give us infinite grace. We are stardust formed into conscious beings, capable of incredible dreams and seeing S. Let us walk gently on this precious earth, honoring all life since its very birth, recognizing the sacred in every living thing, and the joy that true connection can bring. For in the end, what truly matters are the bridges we build, not the noise and clatter-s. The love we share, the peace we make, the differences we heal for humanity's sake. We are the present moment's living breath, the synthesis of life and death, the conscious point where past meets tomorrow, carrying both joy and sorrow. So let us continue with open hearts, playing our unique, important parts in this magnificent cosmic story, filled with both challenge and glory. For we are the universe awakening, the dawn of new consciousness breaking, the hope of ages yet to unfold, a story of connection that never grows old. The ancient trees stand as living libraries. Their rings record centuries of sun and storm. Their roots drink from deep wells of memory. Their branches reach for truth, yet informed. We are but temporary leaves on these great trees, green with the spring of our brief lives, golden with the autumn of our wisdom, finally returning to nourish new growth. The stones along the riverbed remember the touch of every stream that passed. The mountains recall each sunrise witnessed. The valleys hold echoes of all voices cast. Our lives are brief candles in the eternal night, yet our light joins the great constellation, each flame unique, each glow essential for the illumination of creation. The ocean's tides mirror our own rhythms, ebbing and flowing with mysterious grace, sometimes turbulent, sometimes serene, always part of a greater embrace. We are the universe becoming conscious, nature awakening to its own wonder, stardust learning to contemplate stars, silence discovering its own thunder. The rain falls without discrimination, nourishing both desert and fertile plain, teaching us the grace of unconditional giving and the wisdom to receive the same. Seasons turn like pages in a sacred book, each chapter necessary, each passage profound. Winter's rest prepares for spring's renewal. In this great cycle, all truths are found. Her hands shape clay into vessels of purpose. Our minds weave thoughts into tapestries of meaning. Our hearts blend sorrow and joy into compassion. Our spirits seek connection beyond all seeming. The wind knows nothing of borders or boundaries. The sun shares its warmth without asking allegiance. The moon pulls all waters with equal devotion. Nature teaches us the folly of separation. We are notes in a symphony without beginning, each essential to the harmonic whole, sometimes carrying the melody, sometimes the bass, yet always part of the music's soul. Let us live as if each moment matters, for indeed, each moment does. Every breath a gift, every heartbeat a miracle, every encounter sacred in its thusness. For in the end, love is the only lesson, compassion the only true treasure, connection the only real wealth, and presence the greatest treasure. We are the eyes through which the cosmos beholds itself, the ears through which it hears its own music, the heart through which it feels its own beauty, the mind through which it comprehends its mystery. So let us continue this glorious becoming, this endless unfolding, this magnificent dance, honoring the past, embracing the present, trusting the future to grace and to chance. For we are both the journey and the destination, the question and the answer, the seed and the tree, the temporary and the eternal, and in this paradox, we are free. We are the river meeting the infinite sea, the moment between the question and the answer, the silence between the notes of the eternal melody, the space where all possibilities dance. Each soul carries the light of 10,000 ancestors. Every heartbeat echoes through the corridors of time. Our breaths mingle with the winds of eternity. Our tears become part of the healing rain. The cosmos breathes through our collective being. Stars are born in the crucible of our dreams. Galaxies spiral in the patterns of our thoughts. And all of existence participates in our becoming. We stand at the threshold of forever, holding hands across the dimensions, our voices blending in the great chorus, our stories weaving the tapestry of now. The earth remembers every footstep. The sky holds every whispered prayer. The fire transforms every offering. The water carries every blessing. In the garden of infinite moments, we are both the gardeners and the flowers, tending and being tended, nourishing and being nourished. The mystery unfolds through our awakening, the divine manifests through our compassion, for truth reveals itself through our seeking. Love expresses itself through our being. We are the bridge between the seen and unseen, the known and the unknown, the temporal and the eternal, the individual and the universal. Let us walk in sacred awareness, harboring the light in every being, celebrating the diversity of expression, remembering the unity of essence, for we are the universe celebrating itself, consciousness experiencing its own magnificence, life loving itself into greater being, and this journey never truly ends. The stars in our eyes reflect the cosmic dawn. The rhythm in our hearts matches the pulse of creation. The wisdom in our souls contains all ages, and our love encompasses all that is. So we continue, moment by moment, breath by breath, step by step, dancing the eternal dance, singing the endless song, saying the living truth, in this ever-minus unfolding now. For there is no destination, only the journey, no separation, only the illusion of distance, no ending, only continuous transformation. And in this knowing we are free, we are whole, we are home, we are the weavers of light in the tapestry of being, threads of consciousness in the loom of eternity, each moment a stitch in the fabric of now, each breath a color in the spectrum of forever. The river of time flows through our veins, carrying memories of distant shores, whispering secrets of forgotten realms, nourishing the roots of what is to come. We stand at the crossroads of infinite possibilities, where every choice creates new worlds, every thought births new realities, every emotion paints new dimensions. The stars are not distant lights but kindred spirits. The mountains are not mere rock but ancient wisdom. The oceans are not just water but liquid memory, and we are not separate but part of this grand communion. In the silence between heartbeats, we hear the music of the spheres, In the space between faults, we touch the essence of all that is. Our lives are poems written in the language of soul, each experience a verse in the epic of existence, each relationship a rhyme in the sonnet of connection, each challenge a metaphor in the ballad of growth. The wind carries the breath of ancestors, the rain holds the tears of generations, the soil preserves the dreams of those who walked before, and we are the living synthesis of all these gifts. We are both the artists and the artwork, the composers and the composition, the storytellers and the story, the lovers and the beloved. Let us create with conscious intention, weave with compassionate attention, build with reverent connection, and love with fearless dedication. For we are the architects of tomorrow, the gardeners of potential, the midwives of emergence, the guardians of becoming. The universe sings through our voices, dances through our movements, thinks through our perceptions, and loves through our hearts. So let us continue this sacred poem and this creation, this divine collaboration, this miraculous manifestation, with the infinite expressing itself in finite form. We are the universe experiencing itself, consciousness exploring its own nature, life celebrating its own existence, and this glorious adventure has just begun. In every atom, the memory of the Big Bang, in every cell, the wisdom of evolution, in every soul, the spark of the absolute, and in every moment, the promise of eternity. We are, and in this simple truth, everything is contained, everything is possible, everything is perfect. Remember, you are stardust become conscious, love made visible, hope given form, and your existence matters more than you can possibly imagine. Continue to breathe, to be, to become, to love, for this is why we are here. This is who we are. This is what we do, forever and always, in this eternal now. The forest holds its breath before the storm, quest whispers secrets to those who listen. Snowfall patterns map the coming weather, animal tracks tell stories of hunger and shelter. Every shadow carries meaning in the winter woods. We learn to read the world's subtle language. The way frost clings to bark speaks of temperature. The direction birds fly reveals wind changes. The texture of snow predicts its duration. Nature's signals became our survival guide. Heat became our most precious currency. Stones gathered warmth from the feeble winter sun. Fire was nurtured like a newborn child. Breath was conserved in still, cold air. Every spark held the promise of continued life. Our hands remembered what our minds forgot. How to layer clothing for maximum warmth. How to bank embers for morning's revival. How to store food against relentless cold. These skills were written in muscle and bone. The community became our greatest shelter. Walls mattered less than shared body heat. Food tasted better when passed between friends. Stories grew brighter when heard in chorus. Isolation meant death, while unity brought life. Winter taught us the value of patience. We learned to move with deliberate slowness, to conserve energy for essential tasks, to measure time in sunrises survived, to find joy in simple, enduring things. The darkness became our familiar companion. We learned to see without bright light, to navigate by starlight on snow, to hear whispers through howling wind, to find comfort in long, quiet nights. Our traditions were forged in cold's crucible. Songs were composed to keep time while working. Stories were told to preserve knowledge. Crafts were perfected during endless evenings. Each generation added to our winter wisdom. We discovered beauty in barren landscapes, in the way moonlight glowed on ice fields, in the patterns of frost on frozen windows, in the silence of a snow-lined blanketed world, in the stark clarity of cold air. The changing seasons wrote calendar. First snowfall marked the beginning of contraction. Deepest cold tested our preparations. Thawing ice signaled hope's return. Each phase had its purpose and lessons. We became students of minimalism, learning what was truly necessary, discarding what merely seemed important, finding richness in having just enough, discovering freedom and simplicity. The land taught us about resilience, how trees bend under snow but don't break, how animals adapt their behaviors, how water finds new paths when frozen, how life persists against all odds, how children learned through living example, watching how we faced each challenge, helping with tasks suited to their strength, asking questions during long nights, growing into their roles naturally. Memory became our library in school, remembering which winters were hardest, recalling which solutions worked best, preserving knowledge through retelling, honoring those who taught us to survive. We learned to balance action and rest, when to push against the storm, when to wait for better conditions, when to conserve our resources, when to trust the natural rhythms. The cold polished our character, teaching endurance without complaint, showing strength without arrogance, revealing beauty without ornament, demanding honesty without pretense. Now we carry this wisdom forward, in how we face life's challenges, in how we build our communities, in how we respect our environment, in how we value each other. The winter's lessons remain within us, written not in books but in being, spoken not in words but in actions, preserved not in museums but in lives, continued not in memory but in practice. We stand as witnesses to resilience, strength that hardship can create strength, evidence that community brings warmth, examples that adaptation brings survival, testaments that wisdom comes from living. Let us honor these ancient understandings by living with awareness and purpose, by supporting each other in difficulty, by respecting the world that sustains us, by passing these truths to future generations. For in the end, we are all winter's children, shaped by challenges we've overcome, strengthened by hardships we've endured, united by struggles we've shared, made wise by lessons we've learned. The frozen earth remembers every footprint. The winter sky charts our shared history. Each generation adds new verses to the ancient song of survival. We learned to read the silent language, but ice formations and animal tracks. The forest whispered its warnings. The wind carried urgent messages. Our hands became instruments of preservation, carving warmth from the bitter cold, weaving comfort from simple materials, building shelters against the endless night. The community became our fortress, shared breath our strongest defense, united hearts our greatest warmth, common purpose our guiding star. Winter taught us profound truths, that scarcity reveals true wealth, that darkness makes light precious, that silence speaks the loudest wisdom. We discovered hidden reservoirs, the strength we never knew we possessed, of compassion that grew in hard times, of creativity born from limitation. The long nights became our teachers, showing us what truly matters, removing all that was unnecessary, sharpening our focus to essentials. Our children learned through living, their small hands mastering vital skills, their young minds absorbing ancient ways, their spirits inheriting resilience. The seasons turned in endless rhythm, each winter testing our preparations, each spring rewarding our perseverance, each cycle deepening our understanding. We became partners with the cold, learning its patterns and moods, respecting its power and beauty, finding harmony within its demands. Now we carry this knowledge forward, in how we face life's challenges, in how we build our communities, in how we honor our heritage. The winter's wisdom lies within us, in our capacity to endure, in our ability to adapt, in our commitment to each other, in our reverence for the earth. We are the legacy of survival, the living proof of resilience, the bridge between past and future, the keepers of winter's secrets. Let us walk with this awareness, that every challenge holds gifts, that every ending brings beginnings, that every winter yields to spring, for in the great tapestry of existence, her struggles and triumphs are woven into patterns of enduring beauty that will warm generations to come. This is our story and our song, our inheritance and our gift, the eternal truth we carry, that life prevails, then love endures.